Would you need to start the recording or you've already
I
started?
started it.
Thanks again, Miss Barton.
Good evening, everyone. This is Westcott speaking.
Welcome. Thanks, Mr. Westcott. Thanks, everyone, for joining us on this first day of spring. I see the change. It is a little bit brighter later, so I'm glad for that. Leaving in the dark to go to school and coming back sometimes in the dark. But thank you so much for joining again. We're just going to get right to it because we have a guest this evening, and we also have planning that we want to get to for our upcoming cleanup. Did everyone here? Well, I don't need to ask. I know Ms. Barton had sent it out. I'm just going to make a motion, ask someone to make a motion to for the minutes that was sent out in that email. Can someone go ahead and make a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll make a motion. Brian Schick.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
If someone can second the motion. We're asking for approval of the last meeting minutes.
Assuming we have a quorum, George Day second the motion. Okay, so George Day second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Tate. Thanks, Ms. Barton. So I'm gonna, and did everyone receive an agenda?
Yes.
Yes.
Thanks again. I'm gonna turn off the video because sometimes when I'm going back and forth, I'll turn it off and I'll turn it back on. I'm just gonna give a brief report so that we can keep going. We had a few complaints this month regarding illegally parked cars. So there was one in front of Chef Choice, and the Department of Vehicles said it's not a derelict vehicle. It doesn't fit the criteria. So we went ahead and we've sent it on to the 67th precinct. Since it still has a license plate, they're gonna have to tow it or remove the license plate, and then we're gonna be able to get back to the derelict vehicles operations unit. East 37th Street, our neighbors on East 37th Street, they've been having a lot of issues with illegally parked cars. We've sent that information in as well, and some of them were resolved. Some of them we're still following up on. For example, there were cars that's been sitting on a jack for a few months. Again, we have tickets open. We're going to be following up with the 67th precinct again. The last one we had in front of 1770 Nostrand Avenue, garbage was being dumped constantly. Department of Sanitation noted that the owner is responsible for 18 inches. We are aware of that, but we're trying to help the owners. So what we're gonna do, we're looking for a workaround to see if they can have cameras installed in that area, because apparently this is an ongoing issue. So this is still open, 1770 Nostrand Avenue. In line with the garbage, the city's Rat Academy, we had mentioned it on the meeting that we had. They will be having a meeting at Grand Army Plaza, Thursday the 23rd at 6 p.m. We've sent out notification as well in an email. If you did not receive it, please put something in the chat or you can email us and we're going to get that information out to you. We have on our agenda that we would have gone to our subcommittee report. We're going to forego that subcommittee report, but I just want to pause and ask if anyone has any questions at all regarding my brief report.
Hi, Carol. It's Brian Schipp. I think I have a question, if I may.
Yes, Brian.
Yeah, on the derelict vehicles topic, I'm hoping to learn a bit how best to approach that issue. There's some cars in my vicinity that seem to sit and not get moved by either their owners or perhaps they're abandoned. One of them I know I've complained about, and I was told in the 311 report that it was not adequately derelict, and so nothing was done. It seems to have plates from out of state. Is there a recommendation on the best agency to go to about it, to either get it ticketed maybe by sanitation or something to sort of cause whoever it might own it to get it out of the way for street sweeping and things like that?
Yes, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna ask you to send it on to us, and we're gonna send it to the 67th precinct. We've been having some success. As long as it has the plate or it has any type of sticker or any identifying marks on there, they're saying it isn't derelict. So the precinct has to tow it, because this is the way the city is able to sell it or to try to get some kind of financing off something that's sitting on the city street. But you can send it on to us. And I've written it here. What I'm going to do, I'm going to send you the information for the 67 precinct as well. But what we're going to do, we're going to send it to them. We're going to follow up until they tow it. That's what we've been doing with the complaints that we've been receiving.
Gotcha.
You've only gone to 311 so far?
That's right. I just filed a 311 with, I guess it was sanitation is when it was it derelict. Does sanitation do those?
When
Yeah,
it's derelict, sanitation is saying they don't do those, because
okay.
if it has something on there, that's a 67 precinct, a towing issue. So
I
they
see.
usually
Okay.
bounce it back to us and ask us to have it go to the precinct, have it towed. Only if it doesn't have any mark on it, then they're going to entertain the idea of having it removed by the derelict vehicles operations unit.
Okay, thanks. I'll look forward to that information. Thank you.
So if you can send us your 311 though, because we usually
Okay.
go to them and say, look, we've complained before, it still hasn't been moved. And it seems to get moved when we do that, to say, you know, our neighbors are doing everything they can. So I'll send you the information for the 67th officer, and you can send me what you have as well.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Any other questions at all? Anything else that might be pertaining to any new complaints in your neighborhoods or? All right, since it looks like we don't have any at this point, and feel free if anything comes up. What I want to do, we've invited a guest to speak to us. Now, in terms to speak with us or to present to us, in terms of sanitation, in terms of, we're tasked with also looking at the environment. So I had reached out to Nat Burr, who's with Grow NYC, a regional manager of the composting program. And I'm going to ask Nat. Nat, I believe I did see you on the line. If you can go ahead and share information with us, and we're going to leave time. If you have any questions for Nat, you will be able to ask directly. Thanks for coming, Nat. Welcome.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here and talk to you guys about composting. So yeah, thank you so much. I'm going to try to share my screen, which has the presentation. So just 1 second while I get that going. Sorry, I'm just figuring that out. Let's see. Okay. And 1 sec. Let's see. How does that look? Can everyone see that?
Yep.
Yes, I
Yes,
can
we
see
can,
it.
Nat.
Okay, awesome. That is fantastic. Okay, so again, thank you so much for having me today. I'm really excited to be presenting here. My name's Nat Burr. I work for Grow NYC's compost program. So my role at Grow NYC, it says it on this slide, is to manage the food scrap drop-off sites that we run in Queens and mostly North Brooklyn, though I do work in South Brooklyn and in the Bronx as well at some of our sites there. So Grow NYC is a nonprofit organization, probably best described by our mission statement. So I'm just going to read that We are a 53-year-old environmental nonprofit that transforms communities block by block and empowers all New Yorkers to secure a clean and healthy environment for future generations. We envision a New York in which every New Yorker can flourish, every garden, every school, every street, every neighborhood, and every borough. And so Grow NYC was founded in 1970, and we've actually grown to be the largest organization or environmental organization in the city, reaching about 3 million New Yorkers annually. And we do a lot of different things. It's a lot of providing access to locally grown food, community and school gardens, recycling and waste reduction tools, and a lot of education and informational resources. And so it's a lot of different stuff. Here is a little bit more about all of that. So we sort of have four main categories. There's the conservation side of things, which is all of our zero waste programs, and that is what the compost program where I work falls under. Then there's also Stop and Swap, where we host events sort of popping up in different locations around the city where we invite members of that community to bring anything that they're thinking about getting rid of and encourage people to just sort of swap those items, anything that is useful, but you might not have a use for it anymore. That is a really great way to sort of reduce waste and build community. And then there's also Zero Waste Schools, which is all about teaching the next generation sort of waste reduction best practices. We also do a lot of education. So a lot of this is gardening, environmental stewardship. We actually have an entire teaching garden, kind of like a small farm on Governor's Island. That's really beautiful. And we do a lot of workshops and field trips at community gardens, do a lot of educational, classes, a lot of free resources, information, opportunities to learn about food systems and the environment. And then a really big part of our work is also just providing support to green spaces and a lot of technical assistance. So usually it's a community garden that we're talking about when we say that. It could be one that's been around for a while and they want help setting up something new. Or, maybe it's a lot where they want to make it into a community garden, but we basically figure out how can we get as much green space as possible and, really preserve the spaces that are already green. So, a lot of it is just maintaining that actually really robust network that we have in the city of community gardens. And then the last sort of piece of the picture is probably what we're best known for, and that's food access and agriculture. So maybe you've seen some of our green markets or farm stands around. Basically, those all connect New Yorkers who are in need of fresh food with the small farmers and food producers that work both in and outside of New York City. So Union Square Green Market in Manhattan is probably our best known one, but there's also a lot of sites close to CB17. So Cordeleu Green Market is open on Sundays, and Crown Heights Farm Stand, which is on Nostrand, is open on Fridays. And that's a really great food access point. I actually get a lot of my produce from there, and it's all really great and from local farmers. So let's talk a little bit more about composting, since this is the Sanitation Committee. So we do a lot in composting. We do in Grow NYC, but how does composting sort of fit into this, into our zero waste conservation portion of our work? So composting is really about the food cycle. I really enjoy working in it because to me it really closes the loop. So we're all used to the idea of food being farmed or produced, and then we go to the store and buy it, and then we eat it, and then we throw whatever's left in the trash. And usually that's kind of where it ends. And the scraps, whatever goes in the trash, we take it out, it's trucked to a landfill somewhere else. We don't know where. We kind of don't think about it. And it sits and decomposes. But by collecting our food scraps and recycling them into useful material, we're actually able to close that loop and create an extremely valuable material from something that would otherwise just be trash. So, for example, it takes a banana peel actually up to 2 years to break down in a landfill. And if you compost it instead, it could take anywhere from 2 days to 2 weeks, and you would end up with really valuable organic matter that could just be put back and would fertilize the soil, which is great because it just transforms trash into a resource that can really be used to grow food and just to green our city environment. And I think that that's for me, that's very magical. And so I really enjoy working in compost. I'm very genuinely excited about it. And so yeah, this graphic kind of just shows the cycle of how we end up with this material and how it's truly quite circular. Also, if you have any questions at any point, stop me, but there should be a lot of time at the end. So I hope I've already made a pretty convincing argument for why composting is better than landfilling food waste, but I think that there's so many other reasons to compost. Our goal, I think, so we're funded by Sanitation. We're a nonprofit, but the compost program is funded by the Department of Sanitation. And, they have this zero waste goal. So sending zero waste to landfills. Over a third of the residential waste that the Department of Sanitation collects could actually be composted. It's a third of the waste is organic waste, which would be just a huge reduction in waste that we currently send to landfills. And that includes food scraps, food soiled paper, yard waste, and landfills often place a really undue burden on adjacent communities. So the more we waste, the more the landfills need to expand to accommodate our waste. The more that encroaches on people who are living nearby, the more emissions there are. That's sort of the second point, is that composting fights climate change. So making compost locally means that we're not trucking our trash, to Pennsylvania or all the way out to New Jersey or somewhere in upstate New York to a landfill. And so the trucks aren't creating emissions. It's a 20-minute drive as opposed to a 3-hour drive. And that's a lot when you scale it up to 4,000 tons a day of residential waste. And additional emissions also happen when food scraps sit in a landfill. So most landfills they have the plastic liners that prevent toxins from leaching into groundwater, and machines compress the trash. So the organic matter, that banana peel in the landfill, can't actually break down because it doesn't have the adequate airflow it needs to decompose. And that creates a lot of methane emissions. And methane is 25 times as potent as carbon dioxide as a greenhouse gas. So it actually is pretty bad when it comes to heating up the atmosphere. So it's pretty bad for climate change. And then another point that's really great, good reason to compost, is that you're just turning something that otherwise is trash into a resource. So I feel like it's almost thrifty because, when I'm gardening, instead of going to buy compost or potting soil, I can just use the stuff that is made from our food scraps. And it's really valuable fertilizer. It returns nutrients to the soil and it helps your plants thrive. Food scraps that are dropped off with Grow NYC become compost that's distributed completely for free. So it goes to community gardens, urban farms, neighborhood parks, street tree beds. We do a lot of street tree care events, and to just members of the public. So a lot of the time at our drop-off sites, we're just giving it away. And we try to let people know when we're doing that. And we also have a processor that does waste to energy recovery and uses that energy from the organic material to power the Newtown Creek wastewater treatment plant and power the grid, actually. So that's a really creative way that they're using food scraps. So yeah, it's really, really circular. We're talking about the circular economy. And another big part is keeping it local. So collecting scraps in New York, we're working in partnership with the New York City Compost Project. We're working with other community partners like Big Reuse, Earth Matter, Lower East Side Ecology Center, and the Queens Botanical Gardens. So we're just fostering a lot of connections there, and continuing to try to let that urban gardening and farming network thrive. And another point that's actually not on this slide that I think is really compelling for why to compost, one of my big motivations living in New York, is that when you do it right, you can really keep your neighborhood clean, and keep the city clean. So, everyone's been talking about how rats are a really big problem. If you take food out of your trash, you're not going to attract as many rats or other pests. It's not going to smell as bad. And I found that for me, it's made a really big difference in my apartment and in my neighborhood. Yeah, so that I think is a big selling point that we don't always talk about as much. And then, yeah, this is just a slide about, what we are. This is our processing site, the Newtown Creek wastewater treatment facility. These are anaerobic digesters. And so we compost 60% of what we collect. and make it into soil. And then 40% of our collections currently go to anaerobic digestion, which is a waste to energy process. So it's a renewable energy. So a little bit about Grow NYC's compost program specifically. We were founded in 2011 by David Hurd, who is sort of like an original New York City recycling guy. He's really, really cool, and he's still the director of the program. And we are fully funded by the New York City Department of Sanitation. So we focus on collecting and hauling food scraps, and we partner with other nonprofits and DSNY for processing. So we don't actually compost any of it ourselves at Grow NYC, but we're working, like we bring things to botanical gardens, to the Staten Island composting site. We have a lot of different processors where we collect and then we take things to them. And then a lot of the time we're bringing finished compost back. And pre-COVID, in March 2020, we had 76 different food scrap drop-off sites, but we had to close, sadly, during the pandemic due to loss of funding. So you can see that big dip right there, unfortunately, is when we stopped. And then in September 2020, we were able to relaunch our program with enough funding to open 16 sites. Now, in March 2023, we have 54 food scrap drop-off sites and are working on opening 7 new sites this fiscal year. Actually, one of them is opening this week in CB17. So I'm really excited to be doing this presentation because it feels very timely. And we're still working on the numbers for the past year, but we celebrated a milestone last year. We have diverted 20 million pounds of waste from landfills since 2011, which is pretty, I feel like we need some kind of graphic to show how much that is on here, but it's definitely a lot. So that's exciting. This is what our food scrap drop-off sites look like. They're really we just kind of show up with a tent and a couple bins. Sometimes it depends how many participants we have at a site. For example, at Cortelyou or Grand Army Plaza, we might fill like 20 of these. You can see in the images, these 64-gallon bins. We might fill 20 of those in a few hours. And that's really busy. But some sites we only have like 5 participants and they'll come drop off. But yeah, we're always trying to get more people to come drop off and come compost. So there's a lot of outreach still that we're working on. And each site you can see there's compost coordinators who will answer questions that you might have about composting or recycling or zero waste. They do a lot of outreach, so they're a really great resource if you have any questions about anything related to waste or sanitation. And we have sites in four boroughs, just not Staten Island. But yeah, you can see the orange tent is really what to look for. So if you ever see our orange tent, that's how you know. And so this map is actually a little bit outdated, but yeah, we're not the only program that operates these sites. A lot of community gardens will operate them and actually do food scrap drop-off composting right on the site and then use the compost that they make to grow plants and food in their garden. So as you can see, there's a ton of different ones, but we are the organization that operates the most food scrap drop-off sites. And this is the exciting news. We are opening a new FSDO in CB17 this week. It's opening on Wednesday. So it's part of our 2023 expansion. We kind of looked at the map and saw that this would be a great spot. We looked around and thought there's a lot of foot traffic here. So we will be there with our orange tent this Wednesday, starting at 9 a.m. And this will be every week year round from 9 a.m. until 1:30. So if you want to bring your food scraps, please come say hi and look for the orange tent. And then now I'm going to talk a little bit about just how you can start composting if you don't already or have questions. This is just kind of, we did a little I compost because I guess this was a social media campaign last year, but yeah, people have lots of different reasons for composting. So whatever is most inspiring to you, yeah, it definitely brings people together. Okay, so what can you bring? Really just, you can see in this picture, not the prettiest thing ever, but really just think sort of like vegan, I guess is what I would say. So fruit and vegetable scraps are sort of the easiest thing to imagine. You can definitely bring grains like rice, bread, pasta, as long as they're not super greasy. Coffee grounds, my compost is mostly like coffee grounds and tea and eggshells. And then you can also bring houseplants, any like soiled brown paper products. It's a really great way to get rid of those. And potting soil, we just ask that you don't bring any animal products. We can talk a little bit more about that if people have questions about that. Really just our processors. Some of them are smaller, so they can't really, the animal products don't break down as easily if you have a smaller operation. So for example, like bones and grease, like will still be, they take a lot more large scale industrial process to break down. We definitely don't accept animal waste. Any plants that are like really infested with bugs, we do ask that people try to remember to remove the stickers and rubber bands from their veggies if they're bringing food scraps. And then here is a little bit about, so I mean, there's a lot of different things you can bring your scraps in. Some people get really creative. You can repurpose different containers. You can use like old bags, a milk carton, old coffee can. We see a lot of this. People will use like a Tupperware, so reusing something that used to contain something else. And then a lot of people also do single use. So mostly I'll bring like a brown paper bag with my food scraps in it, and then I just will tear up the brown paper bag and put it right in the compost. That works really well for me. You can also like buy compostable bags, which I guess is good if you want to just kind of drop it in. But yeah, you don't need to get a special container or anything like that. You can use a plastic bag if you have it and you just want to repurpose it. And then the reason I say that you don't need like one of these little containers, this middle picture on this slide, is because I actually think the best way to store your compost is in the freezer. I think that this way, we don't all have that much freezer space. I know I usually start filling up my freezer space pretty fast with compost, or with food scraps, but it really keeps the smell down. You don't have to take up counter space in your kitchen, and then it's pretty easy to just sort of grab it and go right out the door. Usually I just put a brown paper bag in my freezer and just collect stuff throughout the week and then take it with me. But also if you keep it in the freezer, if you miss a week of dropping off, or if you're not generating enough to go every week, you can save it for much, much longer, and it doesn't start to smell on your countertop. So that is what I recommend to people, at least. And then sort of closing the loop of this process, it's the whole point of this is that it's a cycle, right? So we're not just asking people to bring their food scraps to us and then they disappear like when you take out the trash. We're really creating a resource, and the point is to give it back to the communities that we are running our pop-up sites in. So every spring we do a really big give back, so that's coming up in May, and you can actually order free compost in 25-pound bags like the one on this slide, and Sanitation will just send it on our truck to the site closest to you, and you can pick it up there, and it's totally free if you have a garden or a lot of plants. And one of my favorite parts of working in compost is actually when you're giving the finished compost back to someone who's been dropping their food scraps off for so long, and they sort of have this moment of like, oh man, maybe my eggshells are what made this compost, and it's very special. You can plant your own tomato seedling in there, or spread some on your house plants and know that your food scraps went into that. So that's pretty much what I've got. And I know that was kind of a lot of information in a fairly short amount of time, but I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. And oh wait, let me go to okay, here we go. And yeah, if you have any questions at all, you can always reach out to us. Here's our team email, and then you can also just email me directly. But yeah, are there any questions?
So much, Nat. We're leaving time. We're definitely leaving time for questions, especially since we're having that opening this coming Wednesday.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great to hear. I'm very excited about it.
Where did you say the Stop and Swap was?
Doug?
Yeah, so the stop and swaps are actually they are kind of they do pop-ups, so they kind of will do one in a certain location, and they're different from the food scrap drop-offs because the drop-offs are just on the sidewalk and the stop and swaps will be in like a community center or a church or something like that. So they're more like one-time events, but that is all on our website, which I'm going to drop in the chat now.
And I see Miss Martinez had her hands up. Miss Martinez, feel free to go ahead with your question.
Oh, yes, good evening. I don't know if this is your department or not, but CB17 was never given those little brown containers that other communities had. Would we be getting those?
Yeah, so that's actually a really good, great question. So yeah, right now, sort of the reason that we are doing the food scrap drop-off sites and have been doing them is because there's no citywide compost collection, right? And that would be so nice if we just had, the same way we do recycling and trash and everything else. So yeah, so they only have curbside brown bins. They just started in Queens in the fall, but then put a pause on it. So that hasn't been happening for the winter and is actually going to start back up. But for Brooklyn, the mayor announced that curbside composting is going to start for all of Brooklyn. I want to say in October. Hold on, I actually have a slide, I think, for this. Maybe not on this deck, but sorry, I know I have the date somewhere. Let's see. Yes, here we go. But yeah, so that's coming. Basically, they just only were doing composting at certain sites. So curbside composting service is going to begin on the timeline. I'm pasting it into the chat. So it's starting up again in Queens on March 27th this year, and then October 2nd it's going to begin for all of Brooklyn. So I'm assuming, so that's actually, it's not our it's the Department of Sanitation, which we're funded by, but we aren't, I don't work for them. So I guess I am assuming they'll do a bunch of outreach about how you can get a brown bin and sign up for composting before October 2nd. But yeah, it's a really exciting announcement. They made it like a month ago. Yeah, it's going to be really, really nice for everyone to get composting.
So Nat, Mr. Tate, I see Mr. Tate had his hands up, but I just wanted to piggyback off Ms. Martinez's question. So we would need to contact Department of Sanitation to check on those brown bins.
Yeah, I think usually if you go to their website, there's like a link to register for curbside composting. And I know that before they were giving out brown bins and then they switched to just giving out stickers that you could put on any bin. But if it had the sticker, then they would know it's a compost bin. But yeah, you've got probably, I guess you've got a while until the fall before they would be registering people.
Ms. Martinez, you're fine. Mr. Tate, I see you had your hands up as well. Please proceed.
Yes, good evening, Ms. Burr. Yeah, my question is basically regarding, you mentioned food scrap like fruits and all other peels. What about if we have fruits that are any food that are spoiling, like let's say an orange that's getting old or a pineapple that's getting ready to rot? Is that compostable too, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's most of what we collect, People
Yeah.
usually only throw away things that are like whole fruits that are getting bad or whole vegetables if they're
Right.
going bad. So yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. I mean, we pretty much take it all, even if it's really, really moldy. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And I saw that there was a question in the chat. For citywide composting, can they take bones and meat scraps? And the answer to that is yes. So the curbside program is more inclusive, and so they do take animal products, dairy products, bones. They just have basically like a more industrial processing facility, so they're able to compost that kind of thing. And if you know about those smart bins that have started popping up, because those are run by DSNY, they also accept meat and bones in animal products. So.
Are there any more questions?
Yeah, Westcott. Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Yes, Mr. Westcott, please feel free to proceed.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry, I was off. I just came back on. Question, if you have any old food that left over, so can't you put it in a garden and turn the dirt over, or that would not be wise?
That's a great question. So the compost program does a lot of, I mean, I think the best thing to do if you have a garden or if you have space, is to just compost it yourself. I would not advise just putting food in your garden, and covering it with some dirt, because I feel like animals in the city that would probably attract a lot of rats and squirrels.
Okay.
However, you can buy compost bins that are animal proof. A lot of the time, people get tumblers. It's like this little bin, and it's animal proof, and there's a little lid you can put food scraps into, and then you sort of like you tumble it, and that aerates it. That's a really good option if you have a backyard. A lot of people have worm bins, and they do vermicomposting. So if you have a very small apartment, that might be the best thing for you. A lot of my friends do that. And so that, I mean, I could send resources on how to get that started as well, but it's so simple. Basically, you just put down some newspaper and you get some red wriggler worms, and then you just start putting your food scraps in there. Yeah, which is a cool thing to do. So you can absolutely do composting on yourself and just make it yourself.
All right, thank you. Another question, like I said, we're off for a period of time. Years ago, they used to get compost in different areas. Are they still giving it out? The city are not giving out any more compost to the residents?
I'm not sure what they used to do, but I do know that we have been giving it out pretty regularly. We recently had a smaller scale compost giveaway at our Flatbush Junction site, which is on Fridays, and then we also did one at our site in Canarsie on Wednesdays. And we're planning on doing one at the site on Newkirk Ave as well pretty soon. But I know in May is when the really big one happens.
Okay.
Yeah, so
So
that
would you let us know when it's happening in our neighborhood?
yeah, definitely. I'll absolutely share it. And usually you can look at our social media, usually post it. We also have a newsletter that'll share any upcoming events.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
We actually have 2 givebacks coming up on Thursday, at our the Franklin Ave stop, on Eastern Parkway, which is I think till 11:30. There'll be compost there. It'll be like small, like 2-pound bags, so like kind of like that much. And then also at Prospect Heights.
That's way out our neighbor, that's way out our district.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Mhm.
And I see Miss Friesdat also had her hands up. Please go ahead and proceed, Miss Lulu.
Hi, Nat. Thanks for all this really amazing information. I had questions about almost everything, but I'm going to try to control myself. So, one thing you said, there was a really good market on Nostrand on Fridays. Do you have a location for that?
Yeah, it's on so it's not a green market, it's a farm stand. So it's much smaller. It's really like we have one big tent, and that's on, I think it's Nostrand and Crown Street. Um Let me just make sure I have that right. And there's a food scrap drop off right that also operates right there. Yeah, it's on Nostrand and Crown. And so what's different about that as opposed to a green market is that we're getting, instead of different vendors coming, we're able to get those same vendors. We basically buy from them wholesale, and then we just have Grow NYC staff with a bunch of different options every week. It's a lot of vegetables. We also have usually we have like maple syrup and honey and maybe like bread. But yeah, it just depends on the week. I can send that link to the Crown Heights one.
Do you know if any of it is organic?
I think a lot of it is. I would have to check, but you can definitely I think that they list what they'll have that week and where it's from on the website. And you can sign up for the newsletter as well, and they'll send that to you every week. Let me see if I can get that link.
Okay, yeah, that's really exciting.
Yeah.
And then I also wanted to, I have a friend who runs a nonprofit called Going to Seed, and they provide free seeds for people.
Oh, awesome.
And I thought it might be cool to connect you with them, and maybe there's like some synchronicity there.
Totally, that would be amazing. I mean, we're definitely always looking for more people to work with. Yeah, just any way we can collaborate, especially in CB17, because when we open a new site, it's always, we kind of just show up and hope that people want to compost and want to make connections. So, but really anywhere in the city.
Super exciting. Thanks for all the wonderful stuff you're doing.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So Nat, I see Mr. Tate has one more question. Mr. Tate, please feel free to go ahead.
Yes, actually, it's two questions. One is, will you be giving out composting education at this site for individuals who want to do it on their own? Or two, would it be possible to set up a composting, schedule composting class for the community?
Yeah, like a processing site in the community,
Excuse me?
like a site where you could make compost in the community, like a
Or
garden.
how you could teach, because I know composting
Mhm.
include like worms, paper, how to combine the different organisms. So I was
Yeah,
wondering if
absolutely.
there was a way that we could set up like a class for anyone who wants to learn.
Absolutely. I mean, something that we do, a big part of our program is also just doing special events like that. So, I mean, we could just do a follow-up event where I bring a worm bin and we could talk about vermicomposting and set that up. Yeah, somewhere in the district. Yeah. So absolutely. I mean, let's be in touch and figure out a way to do that. And also at the drop-off site, we usually have little pamphlets about vermicomposting. So sort of like an informational booklet about how to start. Um, and then the give backs, like when we give away compost, usually that's maybe once a month or once every 2 to 3 months, sort of depending on the season.
Thank you.
Thanks so much again, Nat. Are there any last minute questions? Nat, we thank you so much for your time again. We know composting is important. We've done work on my block with the Brooklyn Botanic Garden for over 20 years, and we believe in it. We know it's one way to mitigate the excess in the landfill and definitely to control the rat. We know it will not curb all of our sanitation issues, but it definitely, we can see immediate impact regarding composting. So what I will do though, Nat, with your permission, I'm going to go ahead and just send out your information to the entire sanitation committee. And please feel free to reach out to let us know if there's any other information we can provide to you as well.
Awesome. That would be perfect. Yeah, I'm pretty good at responding to emails. So if you send me an email, I mean, all of the ideas and questions that have been thrown out in this have been wonderful. So I'd love to continue all of these conversations and hope to see you at the drop-off site too.
Thanks again, Nat. Take care. Please
Thank you
feel
so
free.
much.
I know you're busy as well because we're discussing a cleanup that we will be having on the April 29th. And I'm gonna, when I send an email, maybe we can coordinate to have the composting at one of the sites, one of the cleanup site, if it fits into your schedule as well.
Awesome. That sounds great. Yeah. Please do send me that information. That would be wonderful.
Thanks again.
Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night.
So guys, we're now going to turn our time to planning, and I'm going to ask Ms. Friesdat to lead this part of it. But before we get to that, we want to address someone's question. I saw that there was a question. Yes, C. Johnson had a question in the chat. So if you can go ahead with your question, it has to do with graffiti and posting, I believe I saw in there.
Yes, Ms. Renaud, thank you very much for taking my question. My question is there any way we can address the posting of bills issue in CB17? Because there are times when I drive up, I'd say Forster Avenue from Rogers down to Kings Highway. Every single block, we buy your cars, sell your diabetes strips, plastic slip covers, and it's on every light. It's on every light post. It's on every uh, pole that holds the cables, and it really makes the community look a little, it kind of looks shabby because when you come outside CB17, like right now I'm in Park Slope, and I just can't help but notice I don't see it anywhere. But the minute you hit our community, it's like these guys, they just prey on us and they want to slap their signs everywhere and anywhere.
I
So I
am
was
in
just
total I am in total agreement, Mr. Johnson. I drive through like 4 neighborhoods to get to the school that I teach in, and
right.
there's a stark difference between here and when I get to Bay Ridge. So I don't have an immediate answer for you, but I can reach out to we usually go to our community affairs officers at
Right.
67 precinct, but I see Miss Hazel Martinez has her hand up, and we also have Chair Daly on the line. We have Roderick Daly.
I
If
just,
he is within,
I'm
if he
sorry.
is within, Mr. Johnson?
Yes, I just wanted to finish up by saying I did a little bit of research, and I know that there's a law on the books that the first violation is a $70 fine, $75 fine, and every subsequent violation after that is $100 and I believe $25 for each violation. So when these guys get hit, they're going to be getting hit for each poster that they put up, and then they have to take it down. So right there, that's a windfall for the city because there's just, it makes the community look bad, and the city can make a little money by hitting these guys with summonses.
And it also adds to the garbage, right? Because sometimes they don't stay on the wall, they end up on the street. So it
Right.
does add to the filth and the garbage that we're pressed with on this side as well. Miss Martinez, you had a comment or you're adding to it?
Yes. Yes, I agree with Mr. Johnson but now they're not so, we used to remove them, but now they're not so easy to remove because they are put on way up with some sort of, attachment that like you can't easily dig it out of something. I don't know, they use some sort of machine to put it in. But however, there's in addition to those signs, you have all these things about parties everywhere, all down Farragut and Kings Highway on Clarendon Road. They are absolutely disgusting. And they're supposed to be fined if politicians get fined for putting signs up. So how come these people can't get signs up? Or the cars for sale, cars everywhere, all on
And
the traffic signs everywhere.
I believe it's sanitation department's
It
responsibility.
is. It is, but it is sanitation, but they're supposed to find these people. They have phone numbers there, so I don't know why they're not, contacted or something.
Thanks, Ms. Martinez. So, Mr. Johnson, we will follow up. I've written it here. We're going to follow up with the respective agencies. We're also going to touch base with our elected officials. We've seen on this end that when we ask questions, we're going to get a response, and then sometimes they think we're going to go away. Some of these things we need to just stay on top of it until we get a resolution. So I've written it here, and we usually email out to the group. If I can ask you to drop your email address in the chat. I'm looking at the list that we have here, and I don't remember seeing your email, but please make sure it's in the chat. And we're definitely going to follow up with the entire group that's on here.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you for bringing that to us. Thanks, Ms. Martinez. Any other questions or
Yes,
I didn't
Westcott.
see.
I'd like
Mr.
to,
Westcott, yes.
Westcott, I'd like to make a statement. At our last board meeting ahead, I overheard that someone was complaining about the merchants and the residents were complaining because they were getting because they were ticketed for having to the sidewalk. And this is something that I had suggested. I don't know why they're complaining now because I walked out on Sunday, I walked out on Avenue D and it was a mess. So I think the sanitation people should continue ticketing these people because we damn if we do and damn if we don't. They complain if they ticketed and they complain if the streets or the sidewalks are dirty. So I would suggest that we just leave it alone, let the sanitation people do their jobs.
Thanks,
That,
Mr. Westcott. And just to add to that, what we've done over here, we take pictures and we tag, we put it on our social media, we put it on Instagram and on Twitter, and we get immediate responses when we do that.
beautiful.
We had an issue on my block where garbage was left in front of the building at the corner. We
Okay.
reported it to 311. They closed our ticket and said it was taken care of when it wasn't taken care of. So what we did, we took pictures and sent it back in and said, and we tweeted, we tagged everyone in there. They came immediately and cleaned it up. So we just have to use what we have at this time as well. Just tag them, send us the pictures. We're gonna send it out and just hold people accountable. But I see Miss Martinez and then I see Miss Kwashe. Miss Martinez, please feel free.
I think the problem with the ticketing of the businesses was the fact that they were being ticketed at 2 a.m., which is not within the guidelines of when you
Okay.
can ticket a store. I mean, granted, there is no enforcement of the businesses in this community. I mean, they're dirt all over, but I don't think they can ticket them legally during those hours.
I wasn't quite sure when, what
Yeah.
time they ticketed.
That was the complaint.
Okay.
Thanks, Miss Martinez. Miss Kwashe, I saw you had your hand up before as well.
Yes, I was going to reiterate what Ms. Martinez just said.
Thank you so much. We know we're not done. We're just gonna put a part of it on pause only because we want to turn our attention to the upcoming cleanup. And Ms. Friesdat and a few other people who are on the line, they're spearheading parts of it. So I'm gonna ask you, Ms. Friesdat, to go ahead and then I'll fill in as to where you know what, Ms. Friesdat, let me just tell you where I am so I don't interrupt you. We've reached out to, and this is for all of us on here, the cleanup is scheduled for April 29th. We've reached out to our elected officials, and we're not doing this just for a photo opportunity. We know if we don't have a collaboration with our elected officials, and if we don't start tweeting and tagging and holding everyone accountable and in line with us, what we attempt to do will only be for that day. So we've reached out to Assembly members Chandler Waterman, Bishop Hermelin, Council Member Lewis, Borough President Reynoso, and Senator Parker. We've heard back from Senator Parker at the CB Sanitation email. He's unable to attend. We're not sure if we're going to get a representative there. So that's what we've had from our CB17 sanitation email. We've reached out to the Department of Sanitation, Mr. Juan Saldana. This is so we can borrow the equipment and we can get the tools that we need. They're definitely going to collaborate with us and let us get these again. We just have to coordinate where and when we're going to pick these up. And when the cleanup is finished, since we have multiple sites, we also have to coordinate with them the corners that we're leaving the garbage because they're going to come, they usually come that same day to pick it up. The last part of it, we're just getting the t-shirts made. Miss Fraser, who's our district manager, she's working on getting that made for us. And Miss Friesdat, I'm going to turn it over to you so you can explain the intricate details of where else we are with the cleanup.
Okay. I don't know if I have all the intricate details, but I'm going to do my best to get people excited and up to speed. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is share the poster because I think it's coming along nicely. So are you able to see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes, we are.
Okay, I think I can fit that to page level. Can you see it?
Yeah.
The whole poster? So
Mhm.
I hope that this is not finished yet, but this is, I think, getting close to finished. We have so far, I know we got confirmation from Farrell Lewis and Assemblymember Bishop Hermelin. I heard some new ones there that I hadn't heard before. Did you say that Reynoso had and Chandler Waterman had said yes, or just that they've been reached out to?
They've been reached out to. They did not respond yet.
Okay, and I know Chandler Waterman, she's an assembly member, and Reynoso, is that city council?
He's the borough president.
Oh my God, I feel so bad. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine. We have a lot of new people shuffling, and then next year we might have a lot of new people with the 51 elections.
Okay, a little embarrassing, but that's how you learn. So but we didn't get a response yet
No, not
from
yet.
them. Okay,
We heard
so,
from
but I
Ms.
think that,
Church. We just heard from someone in the office that said she's passed it on again, but we didn't get a firm response. No.
okay, and maybe, well, we can talk about that. But anyway, the poster can be, I know I personally spoke with Assembly Member Rodnishby Hermalan. I had showed her the poster and she was happy to be included. And I'm confident that I remember speaking to Farrah Lewis's office also. So they're down here. The poster can be reorganized a little bit. I think I can make these logos a little bit smaller and put them side by side, and then we can make some more space for if they come on board. But mostly I just wanted a really visually striking poster that makes people feel really excited and about beautifying the neighborhood. So I just wanted to show it and see if people are excited about it. I'm trying, this is the concept that I have right now, and I wanted to see if you guys, or if people here like this idea, to leave the date and the location open, and then you could take a Sharpie and you could put, so our idea is that we're going to do this every month, the last Saturday of the month. So these, because it costs a fair amount of money to print like a high quality color poster like this, but then we could have them on hand, and every month we can fill in the date. So like this time it's April 29th, but that would be in April. Then in May, it would be the last Saturday of the month. So we would, have some blank posters that we could fill in the May date, and then you could write your location here. So whatever, and we would have these locations agreed on ahead of time, but you can put your location here where you want people in your block to meet, and then put those up on your block or wherever, the local store where people tend to stop in. And that way this can be an ongoing poster for us, so we don't have to print them over and over again for economical reasons. So I just wanted to see if people liked how it's coming along, and if you like that concept of what's called like an evergreen poster that we can reuse.
Beautiful.
Any input on that?
It's beautiful.
Okay, awesome. Anybody
I think
else?
that's a great idea. As far as having one poster that you can reuse, you can print out a lot more posters at one time, save money. So I think from that perspective, having something reusable, and then just to echo the comments, I think it looks great. And the idea of maybe making those logos smaller and still maybe even making the text a little bigger so you can read it a little further away could be an idea. Just maybe I don't have an idea of the real size here from just seeing it on the screen, but I think anything to make it easier for people to see it, as they're walking by with the text, because there is a little bit of text here, would be even better.
Right. Maybe the help keep Flatbush beautiful would be what we would want to make bigger. Like that is sort of like the text that's alerting you that this is something you can help with. So I think that's a great suggestion. So bigger text for that particular part. Anybody else? Input, ideas? Okay, I'm going to roll on. Then we also are working on one other poster idea, and we don't actually have this poster made yet, but we have like a concept for it. So that we can't use this cartoon. This is, I think, owned by the New York Times, but just to show you concept, we'd like to also do a poster like this that shows somebody taking their garbage out, but instead of, this is like a street can, it would have the corner can, and it would say something like, keep your home garbage at home. We'll figure out like a clever way to say it. We actually have a little rhyme if we want to use it, but the idea is like, when you bring your home garbage to the corner can, you're hurting everybody in the neighborhood. So we're really trying to get a neighborhood-wide understanding that that is a real problem. So we're working on, it looks like we got a small budget approved we got an illustrator who's really talented, who said they wanted to help us. So the idea would be to do that also as kind of like a public, education campaign to really get people on board. Any input on that idea? That would be simultaneous, basically, kind of sort of two separate ideas, one poster to get people to come help and one poster to discourage people from doing their home garbage on the corner cans. Any input on that idea? Good idea, bad idea?
Good idea.
Okay, that helps. Great. Okay, so Carol, you and I can keep working on that. And um, I wanted to try to figure out how many of we had set up team leaders before. The idea was to have 10 team leaders, and the people that we had down so far, I'm trying to figure out how many people are actually here tonight. I see Mr. Westcott and also Mr. Blair is here. Some people are up with phone numbers, so I'm not sure who those people are. Anybody else who's
I see Patricia Ralph as well, and I saw T.S. Candy earlier.
Yes, Patricia Ralph, I'm here.
okay? Patricia, are you a team leader?
Not that I know of.
Okay, would you like to be? I don't know. I think we have room for somebody, but we had 10 people so far, but I don't know. I haven't really, Mr. Westcott, I know you tried to call me a couple times,
Yes, I sure did.
but I tried to call you back several times also.
All right, well, we together tonight now, so.
Okay. So I think it just depends on if the people that we signed up previously are going to be team leaders, then we have 10 now. But if
Now,
not,
you also have Mrs. Kelman on too, who belongs to
who?
King County. So, Mrs. Kelman,
Okay, and would that be at the same location or a different location?
same location. We are the same
Okay,
area.
so let's start with who we've got here and get those locations going. So Mr. Westcott, what would be the intersection or the location where your group would meet?
Well, I would say Avenue D and Utica.
Okay, Avenue D in Utica?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Okay. And Carol, do we need to get like a range that group is going to try to tackle, or is it just we just need the intersection where they're going to meet? How do you want it?
The intersection where they're going to meet is great because that's the same place where we can drop off the garbage for that location.
Okay, and then we'll leave it up to the team leaders to figure out what is the range that they want to try to tackle.
Yes, what do they want to clean? Would it be 5 block? Would it be 10 blocks?
10 blocks might be a lot, but I think people have a sense of what's doable. The time is 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. So you just got 2 hours, and you don't want people to be too tired. You know, you want to feel like we did an area, and at the end of that time, we felt really great because we got it nice and clean.
We're going to leave it up to the team leaders. They know their area as well.
That's great. So I'm going to try to see if I can get locations from the people who I don't have locations from yet. So Mrs. Kelman, I'm going to have you down at that same location. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay, that's great. And then,
and Patricia.
and Patricia, you guys are all at that location. Patricia, what's your last name?
And Mr. Blair.
And Mr. Blair, you guys are all at that location.
Patricia
Right.
is Miss Ralph.
Yes,
Ralph.
Patricia Ralph.
Pleasure to meet you on
Same here, thank
Zoom.
you.
Okay, and Mr. Blair is also there. Okay, so then I know for a fact we have one more location where we need a team leader because I thought Mr. Blair was separate. So I'm going to put him down there. Carol, I have you down at East 25th Street.
Correct.
And can I get a cross street?
We're between Clarendon and Avenue D.
Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to deal with the WebEx and the document where I'm taking notes. It's a little bit tricky. Clarendon and Avenue D. So that's your meeting place, Clarendon and Avenue D?
We're going to be meeting at the corner of East 25th and Clarendon.
Perfect. Okay. Then T.S. Candy, are you on the line? Okay, so next time you talk to her, Carol, maybe you can try to get a location there, a meeting location. And then we have Tilder, the meeting, we usually meet in front of Nazmeen Tower's house. We all know that house. And I'll get the address from her, but it's on East 32nd between Snyder and Tilden. And we've got a number of people in Tilder who I think will be a team lead there. I talked to Anthony the other day, and there's any number of people, or our block president, Marjorie, could be a team leader, I'm sure. I put myself down as team leader for Church in Nostrand, unless somebody else wants to tackle that. We have Joan Backerden. I don't know if you know Joan.
Joan, yes.
Okay, Joan said she would be a team leader. I haven't gotten an exact location from her. I know she's further east. We have Alem, who's really great, and her location is going to be East 34th Street and Church. And then we have the Veronica Place Garden, which is at Veronica and Tilden. And there's 2 people there who are very active in the garden, Damon Haynes and Kurt Flowers, and they'll be team leaders there. So I think we just have, let me just count again. I think that's 9 now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe that's 8.
So maybe we
It's
can
8, yeah.
open it up. Thanks, Ms. Friesdat. I just wanted to open it up or just let everyone hear what we're doing when we do the cleanup on April 29th. This is the initial cleanup, and we're picking 10 different locations in CB 17. So for each of these locations, we need a team leader, we need a group of people who will be spearheading the cleanup in that area. It's one big cleanup, but we're looking for different segments of the community board. And then after this initial cleanup, on the 4th Saturday of every month, we will be targeting one area. Is there anyone else on here who would like their area to be included? And maybe they have the time and the resource to spearhead that initial cleanup?
I'm sorry, this is Davis Smith. What time is this meetup again? I don't think I'll be able to make it because I actually work on Saturdays, but I just want to know what time is it again?
Eva is from 11 until 1 on Saturday.
I can see if I can switch, but I actually work on Saturdays. So I can make
Totally
it
understand.
possibly.
Carol, one thing that might be helpful, I think, maybe before we try to recruit people is to just, I had put together a kind of a bullet point list of things that we would be hoping that a team leader might be able to do. And I don't think it might be less than you think. Maybe it's more than you think, but I think it's very manageable. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of read that so that if people are signing up, they have or the people who are already signed up have an idea of kind of what might be involved. So what we're hoping for from team leaders, that you would provide the location where your team is meeting, which we have almost everybody now. Our goal is to have 10 people per location. As team leader, you'd be responsible for recruiting those 10 people. Probably best to recruit more than 10 because there's always people who don't show up. So maybe shoot for 15 and 10 would come. We have the poster. So hopefully put the location on the poster and put those up throughout your neighborhood at at good locations that don't feel like litter. And then coordinate with Carol and the sanitation department where they're going to drop off your supplies and tools, where they're going to pick up your garbage, and then keep the sanitation chair, Carol, in the loop about anything special needs for your location or kind of how things are going, and also generate some enthusiasm for the this coming cleanup day and generate enthusiasm for the ongoing event. So try to, as you're doing that event, get people excited about coming out for the next event on the 4th Saturday of the month. Hopefully this can be an event that grows and as people find out about it. So continue to get signups for future dates. Does that sound like doable for the people who are signed up so far? And I see a question from George.
No, it wasn't. My hands were up from before. It was regarding the first poster. But when you finish with this, I'll make my comment. I had a suggestion about the poster.
Oh, please give me the suggestion.
Mhm.
You could go ahead.
Oh, I could go ahead now.
Yes, please.
Okay. Yes, what I have regarding it was just a suggestion because I see you have the time at the location and then the location at the bottom. I was wondering if if the time and location could be next to each other, because then people could say, okay, when and where, and they have it in their head right away. So instead of having the location at the bottom, I would bring that up next to where you had the date. Only a
Great.
suggestion.
I think it's a good suggestion. Let me just write it down. Anybody else input about the expectations or the hopes for being a team leader? Does that seem like reasonable? What you might be able to tackle? People who are signed up so far, or anybody who might be thinking about it?
Westcott, question. how could we determine how many volunteers are going to be there? We have team leaders, but they're helpers, the other helpers.
I was thinking that I could make a Google sign-up form for each location, so we can make 10 Google sign-up forms, and then people, you could have that and you can email it to your community and they could sign up. Are you familiar with Google sign-up forms?
I am not. But
We-
a question I had asked previously in regards to district attorney getting these kids that who committed minor. Have anyone looked into that? Have these volunteers that who had committed minor crimes, they would come and help? That usually the punishment to clean up the neighborhoods. So besides the committee, we have these kids helping us. A lot of us are elderly people too.
Yes, Mr. Westcott, we're gonna reach out to the DA's office for the
Okay.
initial cleanup, just to start it. We want to get a head start. And we're
Okay.
definitely gonna use them as much as we can if the program
Okay.
is still ongoing.
Beautiful. All right, thank you. Thank you.
Initially, we're looking for people in the community. We want ownership in the community as well. Because if we just we want the people from outside because they need to pay their price to whatever they did wrong, right?
Okay.
But we're looking for people in that community, in each area that we're targeting. This is where they live, just a sense of pride. And this is going to be ongoing as well. So that's why we were targeting the residents of that area, those different areas.
I understand.
But I'm familiar with the program you're referring to. My church had the youths in the church. It's the district attorney's office. It's a program that they run for minor offenses.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Thank you.
So I think the question that Mr. Westcott raised about how to get volunteers so we know that we have people coming is a really good one. How do you normally get people to come out for your community events?
You go to the community board meeting. We have a community board meeting. We present this, and I can guarantee you, at least on this block, we get 20 people that's going to get up and come pick up the garbage. The community board meeting is the integral part of it.
So do you have a meeting between now and April 29th, Carol?
No, you know what? I said the community board meeting, pardon me. I meant the block association meeting.
Oh,
Block
okay.
association, that's what I'm referring to.
Okay. So I know for Tilder, we haven't been having since the pandemic our meetings, but we do have a newsletter that we send out and we have a WhatsApp chat. So, and everybody stays pretty well connected. So I know for Tilder, we'll have people come out. I don't know if I have enough people to cover. We have actually kind of 3 spots in Tilder. There's the Veronica Place Gardens, there's Tilder, and there's Church and Nostrand. I think we can pretty much cover all those, but I was just trying to see how other people think they're going to get folks out for their block. Yeah, just dive in. Roderick?
All right, so first and foremost, good night, everyone. Those of you who do not know who I am, I'm Roger Daly. I'm the chair of the board, community board overall. So thank you for the information on what it is that you have intentions on doing. The community board is a good start. Creating a flyer. The community board will meet on the 3rd Wednesday in April, prior to the April 29th date that you have been discussing. Also, ensuring that if there's a flyer created, that it is sent to the other committees on the board as well. So I know Ms. Barton is the staff person tasked with getting this committee information out. But that flyer, if created, can be sent to other committees and members at large at the board. Also for Dr. Renault for Chair Renault to communicate also with our communications chair, Secretary Thomas, to try to get more information out and make it more visible across the community. And thank you again.
No, thank you. And again, we can also use the, I said community board as well, but the block association, we get a lot of volunteers, at least on this end, from our block association.
So
Ms. Friesen, I'm looking at the time as well. So within the next couple of minutes, we're going to wrap up this part of it because we want to give other attendees time to discuss new business. And if Ms. Kwashi is still here, we want her to speak about an email that she had sent in as well. So we're going to wrap this part up within the next 3 to 5 minutes or so.
I think that's great. I think one thing that we'll probably want to do, in addition to the posters that have the individual date and location of each community, you and I can put together a flyer that has the list of all the locations. So we can send that out community wide and say, go to any one of these locations. Your neighbors will be there to help you.
Not a problem. Google Map has an easy way where we can create it. We did it for our last cleanup on this side. You can just tag the different areas and it shows us. But yes, we can do that offline.
Okay. And Mr. Westcott, you had asked about getting the word out. Are you confident you can get 10 people to your location?
Yes, I was on mute. Yes, I'll definitely try.
Okay. Do you want a Google form or something like that to help you? I can show you how it works. It's basically just a really simple form that people get sent, and then they fill out their name and their email, and it turns into it automatically turns itself into a spreadsheet for you, so you can see all the people who have signed up. And I
Can
can,
I pick it up at the office? Can I pick a sheet up at the office?
I mean, you just email this. You don't need to pick it
All
up.
right,
It's
no
not.
problem. Okay.
Miss Friesen, Mr. Westcott, you know what? We're gonna get it to you. We're gonna make sure we get it to you. And I'll speak with you offline as well.
All right, I appreciate it. Fine. Okay.
Okay. Thanks so much, Carol.
All right, thank you.
No problem. The same way we had the subcommittee meetings, Mr. Westcott, I can set up a meeting with yourself, Mr. Blair, with Miss Ralph and everyone on your team. We can just set something up to make sure we have it.
That sounds good.
Is there anything else that we need, though, Ms. Friesen? Just anything major we don't want to be forgetting?
I think we're doing really well. I'm excited.
Are there any concerns or anything that we might have missed from the other committee members that are here? We're just talking it through because sometimes we could be missing something. There could be something glaring that's missing.
I do have a question. If this is George State one more time. You mentioned that Ms. Bakardine was one of the team leads. Did she give a location?
No, I've been having Jones just, she wears so many hats. So I've been texting with her and she definitely said that she wanted to do it, but she didn't get me a location yet.
Okay, no. The reason I was asking is because we don't live too far from each other, but I know one of the major problem we have in the area is that section over there, Farragut, from Utica to Kings Highway. So I don't know if anyone had that location or if that's the location that she was talking about. But I know I didn't hear any mention of that location. But I'll talk to her individually and see what happened. Because then I'm also parts of beautification, so I could try to spread the word there. Get some of the members to join us. So
I think
whichever location there. Mhm.
that sounds great. I'm going to put you down tentatively for Utica to Kings Highway. And is there an actual intersection that you would meet at?
Okay, I guess Utica and Farragut will be the place, yes, because
Okay,
from there go all the way to Kings Highway.
that sounds perfect. And I'll check in with Joan and see if that sounds good to her. And I'll put you down tentatively for Utica and Farragut, and that you're kind of co-partner there with Joan. Nice of you
Yes,
to step up.
yeah, if
Thanks,
that's the
George.
location which is talking. You're welcome.
Thanks, Ms. Friesdat. If there's nothing else, then we're going to wrap up this part of it. We're good, Ms. Friesdat?
Yeah.
Thanks
Thank you
so
so
much
much.
again. No, thank you. And thanks to everyone who's here. We're truly cognizant of your time. And we want to open it now. We want to turn it now. Is there any new business? We know I mean, I walk around Flatbush and I still see filth everywhere, and it gets to me every time I see it. So I know we're all here to try to do something about it. Is there any new business at this point?
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, my name is Marjorie Selcott. It's my first time on this meeting.
Thank you for
That's
joining,
rather
Ms. Silcott.
quiet. It's a great idea with the cleanup. I will not be able to do the Saturdays though, because that's my day that I worship. But I know that one thing our church had done, and we got a youth to go out and do some cleaning in the neighborhood too. So I could maybe connect with you, and we could see when they could go out at some point and do some of the cleanup in the neighborhood too. It's a fantastic idea.
Is there a good phone number to reach you, Miss Marjorie, or is there an email?
Yes, you should have that email there. They should have it at the board there.
Let me just
You
double
should
check.
have it. You should have it on the list.
Miss Silcott, I see it here. DOW with a 1950.
AY. Right.
Yes. I'm gonna reach out to you. We do have it on the list here. Thank you so much.
On the other side there. So I will see what I could do too with that. This is wonderful. I am on 35th between Church and Linden. And I could see what we could do. It's not really the dirty block per se, but at least to get neighbors involved. But one of the issues I know that they have is when to put the garbage out, when to put out, what time. Sometimes, especially when there's a holiday too, they're not sure when they're to put it out, and sometimes it's out there for days. They're not sure, and then when they don't put it out, the truck come by. So I know that's one of the big issues right now. It's when to put the garbage out. When to put it out.
We have the same issue over here. For example, if Labor Day is on a Monday, the usual put out time for us would have been Sunday night. So initially we were told not to put it out, but now they're telling us put it out there on Sunday night anyway because they get backed up. So they're going to come pick it up when they can. But what I would direct you to, what's been working for us, we've been calling 311, and 311, they've been somewhat helpful when there are holidays and delays. They've been helpful in that area. I'm not sure if anyone else, and I'm not sure if anyone else on here, if they have any other suggestion as well.
Okay, so 311. All right.
I see Chair Daly. Please feel free to go ahead.
Please note that on the last board meeting,
the new set out time.
yes, I don't know if that was discussed earlier in the meeting.
You know what we did, Chair Daly? We had emailed it out, but we can certainly email it out again. I'll make a note of it. Miss Therese Cunningham had presented in this meeting 2 months ago, and she gave us that info, but we're going to email it out to the group again.
And I can also add, this is Judith Smith, I can also add to that I'm a carrier for the post office, and they have us delivering that information. Like there's a flyer that's coming in everybody's mailbox with the new times too. So everybody should be informed.
Thanks for that. So we're getting it from all ends as well. Yes, Miss.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Miss Martinez, I see your hand is up.
Yes, I would like to, actually, this has been, the street sweeping on Clarendon Road has been rather sporadic. As a matter of fact, I monitor it and it's very rare. and it's Tuesday and Friday on one side. There's no cleaning and there's no enforcement to move all the vehicles down this toward Ralph Avenue. And our streets are filled with a lot of vehicles for sale and they don't move. And there's no alternate side. Night cleaning around Harry Mays Park is non-existent. And the place is filled with tractor trailers, trailer homes, and all sorts of things. Dollar buses with no plates.
Ms. Martinez, you're saying Clarendon, is there like a specific between
Well, I know for sure between Kings Highway and Ralph, there's no cleaning.
Kings Highway and Ralph? What we've
Yes.
been having some successes with, we've been utilizing Miss Cunningham for many of these complaints.
Well, I
And
gave them to her too.
oh, you gave them to her. We're gonna follow up again. Kings Highway and Ralph.
Yes,
We're
and around and on the block with Nazareth High School, which is East 57th Street, between Clarendon Road and Avenue D, and on the Avenue D side of Harry Mays Playground, there is night cleaning. It never happens. The street is filthy. It's not the sanitation doesn't clean it either, but because they have so many tractor trailers, dollar buses, and things have been there for years, there are people dumping things there now.
This is Nazareth near the McDonald's, right?
Yes, on East 57, on both 57 and 58th, it's the same conditions.
We're gonna send these in to Miss Cunningham and we're gonna open different tickets. We send them in because she does follow up. And sometimes when they tell us that they've done something, we drive nearby just to see if it looks clean. So we're gonna send this in as well and we're gonna follow up and update at the next sanitation committee meeting.
Okay.
Ms. Kwashi, if you're still here, I'm going to ask you just to speak a little bit about the email that you had sent in regarding the garage. If you,
Sure, I'm still here.
yes, if you don't mind just filling us in a little bit about what you had shared.
Yes. I had originally I sent the email, but I changed it, made a request to Ms. Cunningham to do a presentation at our next general board meeting, to give us an update on how the Garage 17 operates, which tells us why does Garage 17 and 18 operate out of the same address? That's one thing I want to know. The next thing I would like to know is what time does the trucks go out to do the pickups for, the mechanical sweepers go out on a daily basis. So if they are scheduled to go out at 8:30 pickup, what time do they leave the garage? And if because what I'm finding is that our community is very big. We have avenues, we have roads, we have wide streets, and I don't think they're very manned properly. I think we've gotten so big with our requirements as far as with all the buildings that we have coming up. We have a lot of population of humans in our community, like the Newkirk Avenues, the Flatbush Avenues, the Glenwood Roads. I don't think they can keep up with us. And I'd like to know how many trucks are allocated to clean our streets, because from just monitoring, we only get one passing if they do come, and sometimes they miss streets. So I want to get a statistics on how many streets do they miss for a year period from January 2002 to January 2020. I mean January 2022 to January 2023. Also, I wanted to know whether or not what is the absence that they have on their manpower. What is the problem with them filling the trucks with water? We just get dust blown back on the sidewalks with trash on. After we sweep our streets, we get the dust blown back on the sidewalks.
The same
after,
thing on this side. We see it on this side as well.
yeah,
And what we see is if there's a lot of garbage in the street, sometimes the truck goes around it.
yes.
Mhm.
And it blows back, especially if it's a two-way street. So, and so we're not getting our fair share of street cleans. I just asked her to give us a presentation on how Garage 17 operates and what is their manpower, because they may be under-resourced and no one's saying anything. And just this morning, I went outside to sweep at 8:30. The truck came on Troy, I'm a corner house, Troy Avenue across the street. The truck came by at 9:30 on Farragut Road. The truck came back to clean Farragut Road at 10:08. Street cleaning ends at 10 o'clock. I took a picture. I called up the helpline. I told them I'm writing the commissioner.
Right.
I was fed up. This is not the first time. This is not the second time that they miss cleaning Farragut Road. So Farragut, the sweeper is coming down, flying down Farragut Road because he's late. So that meant from Farragut Road and East 45th and Troy, that's my block. So nothing going towards Albany got cleaned today because he's after the street signs have now been back, parking has been put back into effect. I wrote,
We know it only takes one missweeping for it to start building up.
oh, and if no one is cleaning and sweeping the garbage from the weekend, this is Monday. He's not coming back again till Thursday.
Right.
So this is going constant. This is a
And
commercial, and this is a two-way street.
And Miss Cunningham noted that she will be able to address this at the next meeting, though, correct?
Whatever, they said they have nothing to hide, and whatever is not deemed confidential, they will address it. That's what the new assistant commissioner stated himself.
Thanks, Miss Kwashi. What Miss Martinez, I see you. What I want us to keep doing, we had heard from a reporter at the New York Times. They've reached out to us. They came to Community Board 17 and they said, your neighborhood has a high, your community board has a very high 311 report. We need to speak with you. So what we need to keep doing, we need to keep sending in those 311 reports because these are real. And this is data that the city collects. And hopefully they're not just collecting it, they're going to be doing something with it, like giving us the proper services that we require. Ms. Martinez?
Yes. I think that there, in addition to all of that, there needs to be some sort of residence education because the people in this community and the people that come to do business in this community have no problems throwing garbage on the street.
Exactly.
I live on a corner and I'm tired of cups and plates. And when you buy food, you just throw it out the window when you're leaving. I mean, when you're out there, I feel like a slave, actually. If I can move my house somewhere else, I would, because I am tired of cleaning. And they'll even throw it out there while you're there sweeping.
Totally agree, Ms. Martinez. And thank you so much to everyone. And I'm just looking at the time as well. It is extremely valid. In addition to cleaning up after people, it's also the dog poop that we're faced with. It's even hard to walk on the sidewalk. We can't even, sometimes I have to like be stepping over stuff constantly.
Oh no, they throw the bags in my yard.
Oh my.
Yes, they do. Or in the catch basin.
That's horrible. So regarding education, and this is why we're really trying to pull in our elected officials with everything that we do, because that's the only we believe that's one of the only ways for us to get the needle moving. We've all been cleaning up for over 10, 20, 25 years, and it just seems to be getting worse since the pandemic. Are there any final thoughts? Because we're just looking at the
There's
time.
one more.
Yes.
Yes.
Hello.
Oh, before Yolanda, we need to get our city officials to remove that law where we can't take pictures and submit it as as evidence. Um, because if we submit a picture of someone littering on property, they don't respect it. They can't do anything with it. Sanitation can't do anything with it.
So we can't, I've never heard of this one. We can't use the picture,
No.
can't tweet it, we can't send it to them.
No,
can
they don't accept
no,
that. They have
Because
to
we're
see it for
violating their rights.
themselves.
We're violating their rights.
No, they have to see it for themselves, and they're never there to see it.
Oh, sanitation has to see it for
Yes.
themselves.
So
Yes,
it
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
right.
That doesn't make
Yeah.
any
They
sense.
said that you have to get your council person to take it off the books.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm writing that down as well. And we're going to go to them. We're going to write it. I'm going to look it up again. And when I write it, we're going to see the members of this this committee. I did not know that. I thought if my camera showed me that someone dropped something, I can say, hey, this person dropped it.
No.
No, it doesn't count. This is Yolanda Aline. Question is, when you put in those 311 tickets, they close it out without even showing up.
Yes, they do.
And
They do.
it's problematic because here it is. A lot of people get discouraged because if you keep putting out tickets and these guys not closing out the ticket and don't show up, what do you do?
What we do, we open it right back up, and and I'm going to send you an email to show you what we did on this side. I'll send it to the committee. They told us they had cleaned up the building at the corner. They did not. We opened it up again, and we tagged the sanitation commissioner. We tagged everyone. They came over here within 2 hours. It got to one of their head honchos, and they were really they acted like they were embarrassed. But once they close it out, if the problem hasn't been solved, you have to open it up again and say it is still filthy.
No, but the question is that most people, they get discouraged and they get disgusted because if you keep putting things and they keep closing it and no one shows up, that becomes very problematic and you get discouraged. So you just throw your hands up and say, I can't be bothered.
Yes, they do. And I agree, because you're saying that you did it and you never cleaned it up.
Can I interrupt for a second? Sorry, I'm from Assemblymember Brian Cunningham's office, but if you ever face those things, you should just send them to your city council member and just say you've contacted them and put the 311 numbers. Once we have the 311 numbers, even if it's like 3 or 2, we can contact the agency intergovernmental affairs department and then follow up on your behalf.
We most definitely will. And again, you got to open the 311 ticket again, because ours, they close it all the time. Once it's closed, and if the problem hasn't been solved, you have to call it in again and open it up. So you're saying send it into, can we get a direct contact for you? And
So I don't think we can give out the intergovernmental contacts, but like the staff can definitely contact them and definitely do.
Sydney, what's the best way for them to send it in? Like we have Farah Lewis, we have Rodney's email, we have where can they send it in?
Well, if it's sanitation, then it would just be city, so it would just be Farrah Lewis's office. So I would just, if you can email it a picture, that really is the best. And to the other point, I haven't heard that before. I used to work for another city council person, and we definitely use pictures with people, but we only sent them internally. We didn't really post them very broadly, but usually if you use like the back of their heads or if you don't show their faces, I think maybe that's okay, because then it's not violating their rights. You just then see the action of litter and not the person. But I'm not sure.
No.
And you're
Yeah.
referencing the law that we said was on the books, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Tate, I see you, then Miss Martinez, then we're gonna wrap it up because it's 9:10.
Yes, I was about the law on the book. Yes, that law has been on the book for a long time, and we've
Yes.
been fighting it for a long time. If you have a video, if you have a picture, all they could do, the action is to try to see if it's a repeated time about the same time, and then they might be able to send someone around that time. But unless the inspector catch them in hand, those pictures and those videos are useless. So yes, the law has to be redone because the pictures are useless. The only thing they could use is, let's say, if there's a car that they could see say, that the dumping and you get the license plate, then they could try to trace that license plate and see if it's a repeated thing. But other than that, you can't use any pictures at all.
Thanks, Mr. Tate. And we're going to circulate, maybe we'll circulate the illegal dumping again. Ms. Martinez, the final word.
The other problem are the abandoned vehicles on the streets with no plates. Sanitation and the precincts seem to have difficulty coordinating the removal of these things. When you post it on 311, it goes to sanitation. However, sanitation, they say they come, but I know I have cameras and I don't see them. But anyway, they close it and say that someone claimed ownership, but they never refer it to the precinct
And the
because
vehicle
it
is
has
still
no
sitting there.
plates.
And
Yeah.
is the vehicle still sitting there?
Yes, there are plenty of them.
Quick
Ms.
question about
Martinez,
this. Do they have a registration or no registration, nothing tagged in the car?
Nothing.
I mean, I know the mayor did a whole rollout last year, but I think it was of tractor trailers just idling. I'm not sure. And I know that they're trying to make another pound, like trying to create another pound so they can remove the cars when they are abandoned. Because I know that the removal and then placement or housing of the cars was a big like a hurdle to the
67
process.
The 67 precinct always has a reason why it can't be removed.
Interesting.
Ms. Martinez, if you have like a specific one, can you send it in? Like if you have an
tons of them.
address, can you
Yeah,
just
I have a
email
lot
it
of
to
them.
the CB? You can
Yeah.
send it to the CB17 sanitation Gmail.
Okay. I'll send you the
No.
latest one.
All
Okay.
right, thank you so much. Mr. Tate, you have your hands up. You have one final thing or you're fine?
No, my apologies. I didn't take it down.
No, we keep saying we're so cognizant of everyone's time. And Ms. Sylvester, since you're here, we didn't address Assembly Member Cunningham, but if he is free or if a representative is free to join us on April 29th, we would be happy to have a representative from Assembly Member Cunningham's office.
So sure, just send me the invite. I'm Sydney, so it's nice to meet everybody. So yeah, if you could just send it to me, that'd be great.
We truly need our elected officials to be on board with us. Again, it's really disheartening. Just like a lot of people on here, I've lived on this block for over 25 years, and I teach in Bay Ridge, Bensonhurst, and I mean it's just we see what we're getting, we see what they're getting, and we all deserve the best, right? So we're gonna send it on to you. And if there are no last minute concerns, just so we can wrap it up, I'm going to ask someone to make a motion to adjourn this meeting. It's approximately 9:15.
Yolanda Lean seconded.
Thank you so much, and thanks to all of you on here. I have my post-its here. We have quite a few follow-ups, and we want you to hold us accountable. Please, when we get on the next meeting, just ask us if you didn't hear or receive an email with any of these follow-ups. Thank you so much again. Enjoy your week, and please email the complaints and concerns into us.
Okay.
Thank
Good
you.
night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
And they talk about the police and whatever. So upset. Like I said, I don't want to be a troublemaker, but what do you do with police? You.
And Ms. Barton, take care. Simone, I'm going to email either you or Mr. Cunningham.
Say that again.